Welcome to the Retail Tech Podcast. My name is Darius Wasafi, and today I am speaking with Tom Schmidt from Radial. Hi, Tom.
Hi Darius, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining the podcast. Let's start from an intro on yourself and your path to Radial.
Well, thank you. I'm actually a rookie to Radial. I just joined a good 2 months ago. I'm not a rookie to the industry. In fact, I became a transportation person more than 3 decades ago. Initially was almost by coincidence out of graduate school. I ended up in Atlanta with McKinsey. McKinsey is not a transportation logistics company. It's actually a professional services firm. I happened to end up in the transportation practice, served some major transportation clients in parcel and in rail, and then ended up with FedEx in Memphis for 12 years, leading FedEx supply chain and two companies in Canada. Purelator is one that's very well known amongst Canadians. And then back to my first initial home. I always say I was born and raised in the South, which is correct. It was the deep south of Germany. And went back to join the management board of a company called DB Schenker. And then went back to my adopted home, America, and led a company called Forward Air. Radial, I've oftentimes touched base with. They were either a competitor of mine when I was with DB Schenker, or they were a kind of in the co-opetition space. Sometimes we could have used them and ended up using some competitors, but it's a great company. One thing about Radial, just I'm going to shut up in a second. It's actually a very cool story. So 30 years ago, a young entrepreneur called Michael Rubin started something which at the time was called GSI Commerce. And this was when e-commerce barely existed. And he said, like, hey, dear world-renowned brands, I can build you a web store where people can go online and buy your products. I can hold these products for you. I can ship them to these people's homes. I can make sure they can pay with a credit card. And if there's returns, I can make that possible too. So 30 years ago, when most people barely could spell the word e-commerce, he came up with a end-to-end solution, which at the time, GSI Commerce, 30 years later is Radial. And some of those same world famous brands are still customers of ours.
Very interesting. When you say 30 years, and for people that have been in the space for a while, it says, oh, wow, it's been 30 years.
It's been it's
1995, yeah.
it's been a long time. Well, again, this might date you and me. I guess when you and I started, many of these things did not exist. But yeah, so it's been a beautiful journey. I've been here for 8 weeks. We do still a world-class job for some of those most demanding consumer brands in either all of that chain from web store to returns or for subsets of it.
Okay, let's start and go over the type of services that Radial provides customers right now. Maybe from the most common one and then some of the most innovative ones.
hmm So it's mostly consumer brands. Now we are getting into a space where we're stretching into other industry verticals also, but the core had been for a long time had been consumer brands in the fashion apparel space and also in the health and beauty space. So most commonly, we get their products when they get manufactured, which is a whole different topic these days. When they get manufactured, in many cases overseas, they come into North America. We operate primarily Radial North America in the US and in Canada. They come into North America and then they end up in a warehouse. We operate those warehouses. We're breaking down that incoming freight. Oftentimes it comes in pallets. We put them into bins, and then oftentimes these are business to consumer orders. So a you or I order a pair of sneakers or running shoes, and then there's a pick and pack operation going on. Some of it is automated. In many cases, we have customers that have 10, 20, 30,000 SKUs, individual items with us, separately distinguished different items. And so again, whatever the most efficient and flawless way is, some of it is hand picking, some of it is automated. There's some additional technology coming in, either pick to light, where the light indicates where you pick from, or put to light, where the light indicates where you put the item to out of multiple bins. So we use technology based on the number of orders that we have to process, the length of walking distances, so we can actually shorten some of those distances. And we more recently also started using AI to operate the flows to make sure that the length of walks or length of distances gets minimized. And some of the more kind of next generation technology is super helpful in that context. But the short answer to Darius is the most common service we provide for our customer is this type of holding, picking, packing, putting together operation. And there is some level of itemization that goes with it, or value add that goes with it. As an example, if your daughter has a bachelorette party and there's 12 young ladies, they can order the same high-end purse. Each one of them gets the same purse, but they get their own individual initials embroidered or hard stamped. So these types of value add services we provide as well.
That's interesting. So you stand in the stack of like a supply chain for a brand after the product has passed customs, correct?
That is correct. Now, again, we are part of a larger group, B Post, and there's sister companies that help get some of these products from oftentimes Asia into North America. They do some of the customs clearance. One of our sister companies is called Landmark. They help us with that. And obviously, there's in some cases a handoff between what they do and then it comes to us. But from a pure radial perspective, yes, it comes into the country, and then that's where we start coming in with transportation, typically out of our warehouses. In some cases, also we orchestrate together with the customer inside into our warehouses.
So the number of warehouses and the location of them should be like one of the key aspects of your business, correct?
Correct. I mean, this is one of those where what customers seek to do is they optimize typically around three, I call them three currencies. One currency is cost, one currency is time or service, and one currency is carbon footprint. So based on where our customers are concentrated, if they're equally distributed across the United States, as one example, then based on shipping costs versus holding costs, a good answer typically is one central warehouse from which you can actually serve the entire country, or what also is oftentimes the best time, cost, carbon footprint answer is when you have one towards the West Coast, oftentimes California, Nevada, and one towards the East Coast, oftentimes in the Northeast. But this really has to do with the profile of the products, the population flows in terms of where the customer bases are concentrated, and then it's basically an objective function optimization, which we help our customers with. Should you have two nodes, or two hubs? Should you have one hub in the middle of the country? What's best based on this, the objective function? Also, some of our customers are much more biased towards the objective function time, in which case you might have two because you can do same day or very early next morning, and you can still go on the ground for much of the population. And then you have two hubs from which you deliver. If it's more around cost, oftentimes it's you go into the center of the country and it's all ground transportation. But that's a mathematical objective function that we can solve for whatever the sweet spot is between time, cost, and carbon footprint.
So that's part of the initial setup of a customer and probably ongoing as well as seasonality products, different products come in. You decide like what's the best place to be as close as possible to the customers that want to go to the beach and are buying beach-related products, for example?
It's a very good point, Dario. So the solution design is initially to some extent kind of static, where you say like, here's kind of the baseline, and then everything that you decide that you talk about comes in on top. On top, there's typical seasonality. We have 3 times as many teammates, associates on our team in 6 weeks between second half of November and the first 3 to 4 weeks, 3 weeks mostly of December, compared to the lowest period of the year. Then specific companies have their own sales cycles where they have every 6 or 8 weeks they have a sales process in place. One of our customers has 13 seasons a year, so every 4 weeks a new season starts. So these are peaks we need to make sure we account for, we have the space for, we have the manpower for. And then there literally is, if a beachwear season starts, then temporarily for 2 months, an additional kind of peak geography pops up. So all of this is part of the solution design. And again, one thing that we have focused on over the last 2 years is increasing the amount of flexibility, agility, and speed. One specific important outcome is we just launched a product we call Fast Track. Fast Track is when I talked about web store, warehousing, transportation, payment, fraud protection, returns if necessary. We said, let us put up a big challenge for ourselves. If a customer wants any of those components or any combination of it, can we go live within 1 week of signing a contract? And the answer is yes, we can. We've done it 5 times over the last 6 weeks, and we have more and more customers lined up where we can do basically make a commitment to you. We can get you live within 1 week of signing a contract. And that type of pace, agility, speed that we're injecting into what we do really helps our DNA when it comes to adjusting to peaks, to specific sales. We tend to coordinate extremely well with our customers, but sometimes it happens that we find out like literally the day before or 2 days before that they have a big sale that they're launching on over the weekend. And getting this type of agility and speed into our DNA helps us be responsive at extremely high service levels.
Very interesting. 13 seasons. So is that like what kind of product is that?
This is fashion apparel. And again, I'm not going to speak for the company, but it's a world-class company in its space. And that's one of their distinguishing factors, that they literally have 13 seasons a year. So
Very interesting.
every 4 weeks is a new season.
Wow. So so how many DCs, distribution centers, does Radial have right now? And do you operate your own, or do you like partner with other companies, or?
Yeah, so it's 22 in North America, and they tend to be quite sizable. We also have a Radial kind of sister company in Europe that has another 8 to 10 sites. So it's about 30 large sites, and some of them are single client. Most of them are multi-client. And what we are obviously are doing more and more is getting the leases for those buildings, which are our leases typically, co-timed with the length of the anchor customer engagement. And so the short answer is yes, it's mostly our leases, it's our people. And then we do a solution design jointly with the customer. There is different degrees to where a customer says, some of this is our core capability, and then we let them take the lead on some aspects of solution design. If they say, no, last time we checked, we're in the business of creating beautiful apparel. Last time we checked, you're the full-time logistics expert. We tell you what our service level requirements are, and you figure out how you go about delivering those. Then we have dedicated account managers that make very certain that those customer expectations are hit at a very high level. I've been around for a long time in this industry with FedEx Supply Chain. I was in a similar space with DB Schenker. I was in a similar space. Radial's service levels and accuracy operationally are top notch. We're far from perfect, but this team has not just the passion, but also the competency to deliver top level standards.
Fantastic. So who would this be, for people that are comparing it to other technologies? So would it be somewhat like an FBA, or is, fulfilled by Amazon is completely different than what you do?
The typical bucket of companies that we are compared against, that we have to compete against, are so-called third-party logistics companies. Some of them, again, one of them is a company I mentioned that I used to work for, a company called DB Schenker. Kühne and Nagel would be another one. DHL, UPS have divisions that do what we do. There's a company that used to be part of XPO called GXO. So all of these competitors we run into, the Amazon could be in a co-opetition space with us. They could actually be our customers, and for pockets of what we do, they also could be our competitor.
Okay.
Any company that basically
Right.
takes the product from an industrial goods or consumer goods company and says, we're going to take care of that for you. And then again, we are fairly complete. We go all the way through, as I said, payment process, returns processes, fraud protection on top, because again, it goes back to the initial complete process that 30 years ago Michael Rubin came up with.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about technology. I'm assuming that technology is a big part of your world and it's nonstop. What are the latest developments in supply chain technology that companies like Radial are using?
Yeah. So I mean, the first thing, Darius, and you've got a fairly extensive background in that space also, and specifically also in AI. The first thing I think that's worthwhile saying is um, we need to understand what a customer needs to absolutely nail to win their game. We are basically all we need to be doing is make a customer win their game. And in some cases, that's speed. In some cases, that's 100% reliability. You cannot be out of stock. You cannot be late. Um, and the reason why I'm saying that first is um, we can never be in the space of technology or automation for technology or automation's sake. It's got to be the enabler of that objective function, or it needs to be something that changes kind of what's possible, gets to different accuracy levels, gets to different speed levels, or for that matter, gets to different efficiency levels. If a customer says, we probably have the best product in our space, at the same time, if we are beyond a 10% premium, we will not get the sale. So you, and not surprisingly, you need to help us get that efficiency and that cost below that level. And if it's a high volume game, then we need to figure out, can we actually do picking the product at twice the speed or at twice as many units per dollar by using automation, then we're doing that. So some of our facilities are highly automated. When you walk in, you see robots going around the floor. They pick the product, they deliver it to the packing person at the packing station. You see other facilities that we have where it's a highly manual process. And one's not better than the other. But this is where solution design comes in. Technology either enables the objective function at a higher level of speed, a higher level of accuracy, or a higher level of efficiency. And in some cases, it changes what's possible, where you can get to accuracy levels that are not possible because humans make more mistakes than a humanly designed but automated execution process that robots enable. So this is somewhat of a long answer. I just want to be very clear about technology makes you nail your objective function or change what's possible. And it's not the starting point. It's a freaking amazing tool to get you where you need to be.
Yes. It is a tool that you cannot actually work without it, though. Like without technology, none of this would work.
Yeah, none of this works. And again, I didn't even talk yet about the technology that makes us connect seamlessly with the customer, because in many of our cases, not 30 years ago, but today, the customer owns the front. They own the web store. They own the access to their customer. But whatever they do on their end needs to seamlessly connect with what we do in those buildings, what we do transportation wise, what we do in connecting back with them, what happened with that order, and then how does the payment process and the loop gets closed. So obviously there's something that makes us internally perform at a high level, and then there's the connectivity across the supply chain. There's, as you know, entire companies that over the last years and decades got started that basically make that connectivity across the supply chain the reason of their being.
Yeah. So you have to integrate with the commerce platform, of course, maybe the inventory system management or the CRM system. These are the typical systems that you connect with, correct?
Plus warehousing management systems and transportation management systems, yes. So that
Okay.
we also can make sure that we follow the trail once the product leaves our building all the way to the successful delivery to the customer's customer.
Right, right. Okay. Now, you've been in this business long enough to that I'm sure you've experienced some not so successful engagements. What are some of the reasons that you've seen for this type of engagement to not meet its goals, at least initially?
Um, I do believe
I'm not
there's,
talking specifically about Radial. I'm talking about people that are trying to get work with the logistics company.
yeah, I think the first thing is you need to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And I'm a big believer in stretching. I'm also a big believer in stretching inside what's aggressive but still possible. What I mean by that is um, so whether it's regulatory environment, which is a very easy one to detect, or whether it's just the industry expertise, if we wanted to get into the distribution of pharmaceutical products, and we tell people, oh yeah, we can do temperature control here, and we can get some hazmat certification there. If we don't have it, I probably would say let's stay inside the core of what we're good at. Um, so the mismatch between a customer requirement and a solution design capability set is the first and oftentimes fatal red flag. You do have more manageable mismatches where the solution design did not consider the rapid growth appropriately, and then you have a layout, a physical layout that cannot accommodate the amount of SKUs or the amount of volume. Customer coming to you where they talk about 5,000 SKUs, and then you find out that 6 months later they had a whole proliferation of their product lines, and you're dealing with 25,000. Well, the setup may be different physically, one versus the other. So there's a lot about the typical kind of success criteria of transparency, open kimono, both
Mhm.
sides playing equally as partners. Um, there's always the possibility, which I absolutely try to do everything to make not happen, of gamesmanship on each side, where one side under communicates the complexity of what's required, and the other side overstates its confidence in its capabilities. These are natural features, and you need to somehow take the air out of that and make them play at the reality level. This is a precision game, and it's also a trust and openness game. Every single time you have gamesmanship going on and a misbalance of what the expectation is to what the capability set on the other side is, you'll have train wrecks. And by the way, these train wrecks can cause reputation wise, financially, so much damage that all the goodness that you create when you get it right might be outweighed negatively by these train wrecks. Failed implementations are costly and reputationally damaging.
So you probably have a system to assess a customer's capabilities, probably even better than they do themselves, because it's always different to look at a company or even a person from the outside, from their behavior and from what they have, than rely on just what the company thinks. So you
Yeah,
probably have some filters that you go through to say, okay, this is a good customer, we're going to be fine, or not.
so it actually, you got a good instinct here. And this is some combination of judgment and science. So this is not any of those disciplines in its purest form. So we do have new pursuit reviews. We have uh, deal no go sessions where some of it is commercial, like um, and some of it is purely operational. So the the operational one is this one. Can we do what's required here? And we go through several. I mean, sometimes it's 10 or 15 a week. Sometimes it's a handful a week of opportunities, and we have in a very fast-paced but high competency collaboration of different disciplines. These sessions, I sit in most of them. Our COO sits in all of them. Our chief of head of sales sits in all of them, where we look at them and say, like, operationally, can we do this at the levels of excellence that we want to stand for? And then sometimes the answer is no. And we say, like, because the second one is just a commercial one. Do we believe we could actually create enough value for this company and capture a fair share of that? Meaning we can make money with it. We're not a non-for-profit. We actually are in the business of making money. So and there's quite a few deals where they don't pass this. So a customer actually would want us to be. I mean, we have cases where they say we already have made our decision. We want you to be that partner, and we say no. This is also the art where, so we need to say no back to them, and also because this is our full-time profession, we should probably tell them, like, here's what it is that you should be looking for in your provider. It's not us, and
Here's
that's
the
it.
reason. Yeah, give him the reason. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's important. If he said yes to everything that comes in, we go back to what I just talked about 5 minutes ago, where reputational damage and financial damage can sink you and can outweigh all the goodness that you create with all the business partnerships that make money and that work.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably one of the most expensive assets that a company can have is the goodwill and the reputation. And gaining it is a lot harder than losing it. So,
Yeah, absolutely correct.
yeah. Uh, when you look at the consumer flow from a time that a consumer orders the products off a website until the time that they receive it, what are the main challenges and reasons why sometimes things don't get delivered on time to the consumer in 2025? Like right now, what are the things that you see? Is it like the the last mile delivery? Is it the something else? Is it like right now, probably supply chain and product availability?
Yeah, the first thing I should tell you, Darius, is and again, I'm very proud for the team that I joined here 2 months ago. Uh, the service levels of on-time delivery that when we look at them and we measure them, we're talking about 98%, we're talking about 99%, we're not talking about 85%. So when you order something from us 100 times, 99% times it will happen the way you expect it to happen from a on-time performance perspective. There are other aspects. You might get the product and it's a sneaker or a dress shoe, and you thought you're a 10 and a half, and turns out for this particular company you actually should be getting an 11. And so you do have other issues at the end, which are customer experience, especially in the business of consumer apparel fashion, where everything from a supply chain happened perfectly, and at the end, one times out of five, one times out of 10, it is it does not match what you expect. So there are other things other than the objective function time that go wrong. On the timeliness perspective, um, the out of stock is a portion that you mentioned. And then yes, there sometimes is a disconnect where a cutoff gets missed, where the product gets because there's so much order volume in the building on that particular day, where the last orders don't make the cutoff for the transportation provider. That is possible. And then you have sometimes the parcel delivery company the issue where they may be short staffed, or they may have too many for a specific delivery route and have to send a second truck out. But again, we're talking at this point from a supply chain execution perspective of a high precision machine.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the end, the customer experience, yes, is that logistics chain, and then it's obviously, does the actual product match their expectation, or does the shoe fit? You have the does the shoe fit issue much more than a imprecision and breakdown of that supply chain.
Yeah, I mean, those are really outside of your realm, really. Your role is to get the item delivered to the customer. Are they happy with it or not is not a part of the supply chain.
The only thing I would push back on is, first of all, are they happy with it also depends on, is the delivery undamaged? And
Yes.
you could certainly argue inside our chain of command and our partners' chains of command, that is part of our objective function. We need to deliver the product as intended and as designed. Whether they like it or not is a slightly different issue, but we are in kind of collaboration with our customers to even maximize the odds of that being a good experience, because returns is something that is somewhat painful. When a product comes back, when you come into our buildings, we have hundreds of people. All they do in our different locations, not hundreds in one location, they're inspecting very, very thoroughly with the standards we have in mind and our customer has in mind. Is this return sellable again, or is something actually off? Did the customer not like it, or is this there's actually something wrong with this product? And so again, did we make a mistake here? We did not. Is it in our best interest to figure out a way with our customer to analyze, to say the returns of this particular product line are 5x of what the returns of that product line is? You probably should be doing something about the way you visualize this in your commercials, the way you do the touch, feel, and see, because it seems like that item comes back again at a 5x rate of what your average products come back. And again, it's not good for them, it's not good for us. It's a highly inefficient process that's not designed there. And as a customer, that for whatever reasons and whoever fault it is disappointed with the outcome.
Yeah. The other part of, I think as a consumer, what I uh, find really valuable is communication when things don't go wrong or when they are going okay, don't go right. So I think that text messages right now are becoming more and more popular where you're getting notification. Sometimes things happen that are out of your control. There is a storm, there is a fire, there is a disaster. I think, even when we are not able to get what we want, knowing what's happening alleviates a lot of the issues. It's
Yeah.
not knowing that is like really bad. Like suddenly you're waiting for something and it doesn't show up.
So if you look at the supply chain or logistics industry, and my longest professional home station was FedEx. The founder of FedEx, who's still the chairman of the board, Fred Smith, 50, I guess it's 50 years ago now, did say the information about the package is as important as the package itself.
Mhm.
And that's kind of in line with what you're talking about. Like, keep me abreast. I mean, how many times when you and I are waiting at home for our product, like we just are positively awed, like, hey, they're telling us it's en route. He expects to be there at 2:35 p.m. And at some point, that level of transparency and proactivity becomes the expectation. Then proof of delivery, when you're not at home and you get that picture from the delivery provider that shows the box in the anticipated space on the front porch, slightly hidden by the column so that it's not too visible. And you get that picture, you know, I'm going to be home in an hour and it's safely tucked away where it should be and I can look at it. It's those types of service level expectations that have been raised by the best players in the industry and that start becoming the norm. Logistics is about precision. It's also about making that experience happen and continue enhancing it.
What about last mile delivery? Is that what part of your business does that involve actually?
So you asked a short while ago, do you actually run these warehouses? Do you have people doing that for you? The answer is we run those warehouses. That's our core competency to make sure that we actually are super effective and super efficient in line with high customer expectations, how we get these products in and ultimately out, and how we also enhance the value, like the embroidery of those high-end purses that I talked about. For the outbound transportation, we're contracting with several providers. And that's different by region, it's different by service levels. Some of them are typical companies that have been leaders in their industry, like UPS or FedEx. And then some of them are more regional, smaller players. And for us, again, because ultimately for us, the success of our customer is job number one. We are all in team and customer support. We need to make sure that whoever we partner with ultimately also delivers the undamaged on-time expectation with a good customer experience at the end. So we do bring in and bring out transportation providers out of our mix. We use in conjunction with our customers certain providers that are their preference and our preference for their customer set. But these are third parties that are first class at what they do, and we obviously hold them to their service levels.
How do you take input from consumer feedback and reviews? Like if a delivery was completed or not, the customer is gonna communicate with the brand, correct? And I'm sure those are gonna get back to you as a logistic. How does that cycle work?
Yeah, so we do a lot of, and we use NPS, Net Promoter Score, as one tool. We do a lot of feedback loop exercises on a very periodic basis with our customers. So you're absolutely correct. I mean, they hear the feedback directly, and we do everything we possibly do to make sure that we absorb that in our monthly business reviews, quarterly business reviews. Again, this is one of those where it's not about, is it our fault, is it their fault? We're on the same team. If our customer is not successful, then either they're going to get irritated, disappointed with us, their business is not as successful as it can be. It's our job to make them more successful and make their job lighter. So everything we can do to understand what makes them win. Whenever I have my conversation with customers, the first part always is about what makes you win. And I'm not asking about what we should be doing for them, but like what makes you win. And I need to understand that, because then I need to figure out with my team together what can we do to enable them winning. And again, it goes back to those objective functions. In some cases, it's lowest cost. In some cases, it's fastest speed. In some cases, it's if somebody is in the business of delivered sustainably, and that's above everything else, we need to figure out how we reduce the carbon footprint for them. And and in some cases, it's some blend of this with some weighting on one of those three currencies.
That's a good point about the sustainability and the environmental impact. What are some of the things that are happening right now that Radial is doing to improve on that for customers and, for all of us, really, for the environment?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things we are doing is obviously some of it is inside our control. So having buildings that have, I mean, some of it is literally blocking and tackling things, but they do add up. LED lighting versus traditional lighting, solar panels as part of the what makes our buildings happen and makes them come alive. Working with with our delivery partners about the energy that they're using. Are they switching over to hybrids? Are they using battery electric vehicles as part of their delivery chain. So it's basically doing everything that's inside our own control, and then and within our buildings, something as basic as LED lights and solar panels are two of the top things we can do. And then looking left, what comes in, looking right, what goes out. Again, if when there's a choice, ocean and rail are good ways of moving things distances into our warehouse. So we have a lot of influence and impact on looking at what we can do inside our control and then working with our business partners on both sides.
What about packaging? You
That's
select the packaging, correct?
in conjunction with our customers. So that, again, some of them have very specific requirements, but you're absolutely correct. I mean, so plastic is obviously minimized if there's recyclable products, if there's cardboard things that actually are more friendly. If you walk into our buildings, you like what you see. It's recyclable packaging.
And then the other challenge is how to, I guess, bundle or group different products together so that they fit inside a like a smaller package or I mean that's something that as a consumer you sometimes see that you order something small and it comes in a big box and we say, okay, was that necessary?
And we are, when we do our job well, and again, we're not perfect, we're just striving for excellence. When we do our job well, we are our own harshest critic. And we are walking around the floor, we're looking at this and say, like, this is not designed that way. We should not be doing this. So to be very clear, we're designing these things up front. Like what is the sizes of your SKUs? What's the appropriate packaging? What goes into a bag? What goes into a box? And then the size of the box. And based on how we charge our customers, in some cases it's based on dimensions of products. We watch it closely, and trust me, they watch it closely too. And my aspiration is that we get this right the first time, and we get it right on our own, and no one else has to tell us that we got this wrong. Those boxes that you're thinking of, we've all received them, right?
Yeah.
This size for this product.
Again, it's all about getting better. You know, nobody's perfect. Nobody should be expecting anything that's perfect. So, but it's just all about getting better and being open about learning and getting
Mm-hmm.
better. So, what about what's happening in the AI space right now with your business? I'm sure you're using it. You mentioned you're using it to optimize, I guess, the flow of where the products are going to go. How else are you using Gen AI specifically? Like, are you using in your own reporting inside the company, for example, instead of going to this report and this dashboard and that dashboard, like right now, it's possible to just ask a question from your database or you're from BI business, you know. So are you looking into those as well?
Yeah. So just one thing briefly back, Darius, to your previous point. So there's certain I call them Thomisms that I
Yeah, I
use
was
quite
looking at that.
that I
Thomisms.
use
Yeah.
that I use quite a bit. One, it goes back to your continuous learning point, which is like I have no monopoly to wisdom is one of them, and another one is we communicate with two ears and one mouth. That's important too to learn. It's hard to learn if I give a monologue and that's all I do. Right? So that I need to be absorbing. Back to your point, we actually have challenged all of our functions to just think through it, and obviously you have to pull it together. Like, where can AI make you better? And literally, it's in every single function. When you go, think of the commercial process of like getting targets, getting customers, getting prospects, and become customers. There's a lot of AI tools and software out there that can help us uh, write the collateral, access bigger target populations. And then you go all the way. We talked about operationally minimizing the distances in a building. And you can do this actually on an ongoing basis because that always changes with the popularity of the individual items changing all the time. But you can also go all the way to the back end of, or sorry, contracting at the front, or even some litigation issues at the back. There's a lot of legal kind of just must-dos where simplification and standardization can be achieved through AI. So this is a physical. It's also a kind of a verbal piece where when we had the conversation just over the last several weeks, like where should we be using this more? We, not surprisingly, found out one more time like this is not a one-trick pony where it makes operations better. Yes, it does. It also makes every single other function. Again, goes back to either more efficient, more accurate, or changes what's possible.
One of the things that AI, especially like the new wave of AI, is forcing on companies is a structural realignment. There are new roles that are being created. For example, the chief AI officer, which wasn't there before for most companies. And is that also something that you're looking at from your point of view? How do I need to really upskill my team?
Mm-hmm. Completely fair point. And with us, it also starts with we are part of, as I mentioned, bpost group. There's a strong drive towards um, smart use. This goes back to the point we had before, like not technology for technology's sake, or not even AI for AI's sake. But so yes, the skills that we're looking at is much more about looking around the corner, looking towards next practice. Yes, we do have to have the capabilities in place to run the current day-to-day business at world-class levels. We have to have the capability in place to keep the lights on in a way that's productive. So, but there's something about table stakes and raising the game. And raising the game is all about innovation. It's all about looking around the corner and competing kind of with next practice, not with past practice or even with current practice in some cases.
So, what, as a new leader of this organization, what are your top challenges right now, or not necessarily challenges, but your top goals, and what do you think you need to solve? Is it like hiring people? Is it new customers? What are the things that are on your mind, especially in like being so fresh in this role?
Yeah. So we have an amazing core customer base. I mean, I mentioned to you before that some of the best known and frankly best in their respective discipline consumer brands are part of our customer base. So job number one is delighting and wowing who we are fortunate enough to have today. Now, having said this, as you know, in consumer brands, there are some brands that keep reinvigorating themselves, and there are some that have challenges doing that. And then they go out of business in some cases. So it's key that we maximize our performance in support of our existing customer base. And we also, this is where what I call fast track comes in, we also find ways to make it easy for new customers or new prospects to become customers of ours. Startup companies, emerging brands, modern brands, companies that you not possibly never have heard of. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to make it easy to do business with us. This is where I said we found a way to make it possible. Anything we do, if you and I sign a contract for warehousing today, you can go live next week. If we sign a contract for payment systems where we do the payment process at the back end, we can go live in a week. So we actually launched something where we can do that. That's hugely relevant for some smaller companies that are like, okay, we're not in the business of that, of logistics or of payment processes. And we can now find someone who can actually help us get going almost instantaneously. So my job is twofold. One is wowing the people that we're fortunate to have, and frankly, in some cases, getting deeper into them by delighting and exceeding their expectations. And then the second thing is getting into new verticals. We just signed on a distributor of solar panels. Well, we didn't go to these people before. Well, the product is inside the wheelhouse of what we're good at. size-wise, and just overall kind of supply chain process-wise. So new verticals, small and medium-sized companies, startup companies, emerging brands, and then also going to different channels. We traditionally did not go onto marketplaces or other platforms where we are tapping into new kind of access to companies and customers. So this is a simple of like we need to get into the business of winning in our traditional space and winning into spaces that we didn't even tap into historically.
Let's end with if you are recruiting for any key roles.
When you are at a certain scale, you always hire it, right? So we are hiring pretty much on every dimension. And some of it is seasonal, but some of it is obviously also permanent. We definitely in some of those spaces, like we talked quite a bit about technology, that is something where we need to continue getting stronger. But even the commercial process, we are getting into the business of profitable growth. We're tapping into more and more. I mentioned different channels, access to prospects and customers in a different way. Well, that means something like SEO, SEM goes to a whole new level. So profitable growth companies create opportunities, first and foremost for the teammates we already have, but it also attracts obviously more. So the answer is as we go through our profitable growth journey with our existing customer base and those stretches I mentioned, yes, we're going to be in the hiring business across the board.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Tom. It's been a pleasure speaking with you and learning about yourself and that some of the Tomisms, which are very interesting, useful. All the best.
Well, we got a great team and we got lots of untapped upside. And Darius, thank you for having me.